By bus, by train or Metrolink. GMPTE, proud sponsors of I Love Manchester, connecting people with places throughout Greater Manchester.
Welcome to I Love Manchester, our guide to the successes and secrets of our city. Hello and welcome to I Love Manchester. Today we're taking a tour through one part of Manchester, the only way and the best way in my eyes, on board the deck of a narrowboat along the Bridgewater Canal. This waterway is one of the most historic canal routes in the country. Stretching from Lee to Runcorn, it takes boaters through picturesque tree-lined towpaths and dramatic industrial landscapes. Constructed by the Duke of Bridgewater to transport coal from his mine at Worsley into booming industrial Manchester. The Bridgewater Canal opened in 1761 and was a forerunner for canal networks across Britain. Because this canal had no locks at all, it enabled coal and other goods to be transported between towns and cities with maximum efficiency. To guide me around the stretch of this canal is Mildred McWilliams. Wow, Mildred, I've got to say there's no better way to spend your days, is there?
There isn't, no. It's very, very peaceful. It's Salford's little hidden gem.
It is Salford's little hidden gem. We're just on our way down the Bridgewater Canal here, and one of the marinas here in Boothstown you actually own, don't you?
Yes.
Why did you decide to set up a marina, and what was it before then?
Before that, it was the old coaling basin. And then in 1991, when Barrett's built the houses that surround it, they decided that they would redo the marina and develop it as it is today.
And we're sailing along the Bridgewater Canal, which has quite a prominent part to play in our history books, doesn't it?
It does, because it was the first commercial canal. One or two people dispute that and say there was another one down south, but mainly it was the first commercial canal.
And it was the Duke of Bridgewater that built it, wasn't it?
Yes.
Why did he build it?
Because at the time you could only move the coal by pack horses, and they could only carry 2.5 hundredweight at a time. And then the tolls on the road were very, very expensive, so it was eroding into the family fortune. So he decided there had to be a better way of moving the coal, because Manchester had just become industrialised and the factories were just starting.
So we really are sailing along one piece of history as well.
Oh yes, yeah. A lot of our words also come from the canals, like navigation, because originally they were called navigations, not canals. Yeah, and then from that you got the word navvy, because that was the person who was digging out the navigation. Yeah, and then the word puddled, you puddled, comes from the fact that they're lined with puddle clay, and the men would get covered in this orange puddle clay, right? And then when they went to go into a pub, they would say, no, you're puddled, you can't come in.
And that's where it comes from?
Yeah.
I bet you've been puddled a few times on this boat then. How far does this canal stretch?
It goes for 46 miles. It goes and joins the Leeds-Liverpool at Lee, and at the other end at Preston Brook it's the Trent and Mersey. But you've got about over 4,000 miles of canals and rivers that you can travel on, because they all connect together like motorways. Yeah, so you can go from here, end up at the Houses of Parliament, Bristol, or go up to Leeds. So yeah.
Isn't there quite a famous monument that's linked with this canal?
That's the aqueduct at Barton, which originally went over the Irwell, but then of course the Manchester Ship Canal was dug out, so it now goes over the Manchester Ship Canal. Yeah, it's quite interesting to see it turn, because it's, in some ways it's very clever, in other ways it's very primitive, because what they do is, as you sail up and there's a ship coming on the ship canal, they drop the gates and then they pack the gates with sawdust, and pummel it down so that it's solid, and then they swing the aqueduct with the actual water inside it. So it's all very clever, yeah.
What's your favourite stretch of the canal?
I like this bit.
Do you?
Yeah.
Why do you like it so much here?
Because I think it's lovely when you come round and you go into Worsley, you come round the corner and then you've got the black and white houses.
You're right, the setting here in Worsley is quite spectacular, isn't it?
It is, yeah, it's very special. We're just passing the boathouse where Queen Victoria used to keep her boat and where Russell Watson lived recently.
Really? Yeah. He chose a good place to live then, didn't he? Do you know what? I could sit here all day.
Yeah, it is so peaceful and relaxing.
It is, it's beautiful. Thank you very much for that, Mildred. Later in the programme, I will be enjoying the relaxing qualities here on the canal further down on another narrowboat. But now it's over to our Manchester food guru, John Quilter, who's investigating some special Manchester food producers.
Hi, Steph. I'm down here in Chulton at Barbican's Delicatessen, one of Manchester's great delis. But it's not the only producer that I'm going to be seeing today. So, Mark, what are you doing now with the dough?
I'm just cutting it to 450 grams, and this is just felt bread made with honey.
Brilliant. Well, should we get it in the oven?
Yes, certainly.
So I can feel the heat from the ovens. What's so special about this bread?
It's got locally produced honey in it, and
Wow.
it's really taken off really well.
So you mean from the northwest?
No, from Chiltern itself.
Actually from Chiltern?
Actually from Chiltern.
Brilliant. So let's get it in the oven. How long is it going to take?
30 minutes.
Right, OK. Well, I think I'm going to go and see these bees, and I'll be back in 30 minutes.
Okie doke.
Oh. So, Alec, you're in the greenhouse, but where are the bees?
Well, if we just take a look through the glass here, John, you can see the bees coming and going.
Fantastic. How long have you had bees here for?
Well, we started off 4 years ago. You start off by getting a swarm or a starter colony of bees. We started off by going on a course to look after bees. That was the Stockport beekeeping course, and they taught us the basics of how to handle bees, look after them, and then from then on we've been looking after them for the last 4 years, really.
It's just fantastic. It's so exciting. Can we have a look at the different products that you get from the hives?
Yeah, here are the products. Take a look at the runny honey first of all. This is the product that started all the interest in the honey. If you leave that for any length of time, say 3 to 6 months, then it sets into a solid sort of set honey. A lot of people like this because it's easily spreadable.
What's this one here?
Here's the honeycomb, and what we've done here is we've cut not only the honey but the wax that the honey is in.
Fantastic. It looks absolutely beautiful. And then this just looks absolutely amazing. What is this?
Well, at the end of the year you're left with a lot of wax.
Right.
And you can purify it and clean it and produce big blocks of beeswax, which can be used for furniture polish, or you can make candles, or even make various forms of creams and cosmetics.
Fantastic. So how did you end up getting the honey into Barbican?
Well, we've been looking for an outlet for the honey because, you know, after a few years you develop quite a store of honey.
Yeah.
And we approached Victor, and he was over the moon, took us to one side and said, I love honey. And where is it? So we brought a jar in for him, tasted it, and he said, I want 48 jars straight away.
Wow.
And since then, really, it's just taken off. Because there's been so much interest in the honey, we're actually running quite low on supplies. We're going to have some more at the end of the season, but current supplies are running low, so Victor's decided to limit them to one per customer. So, well, with that in mind, am I okay to take that one? Yeah.
Fantastic. I'm going to get back to the deli. Thanks, Alex. So those bees have been working hard. I've got some of this. Is the bread ready?
Just so you know, yeah.
Let's have a look. Oh, fantastic. OK, well, let's get some of that on there.
Okay.
Oh, I can't wait. It smells amazing. Oh, wow. That's good. Okay, let's just get some of this honey on there. Ooh. So, I'm not very good at sharing food, but I'm going to do that. Okay, so let's have a try. Okay. Wow, that's amazing. Thanks very much. You couldn't get produce that's more local. It's produced just down the road. It's done at the deli here. It's fantastic. Back to you, Steph.
Well, that's all for the first half, but do join me after the break when I'll be journeying further down the Bridgewater Canal, one of England's most historic inland waterways. Do you know what? This is such a hard job.
GMPTE, connecting people with places throughout Greater Manchester. GMPTE, connecting people with places throughout Greater Manchester.
Welcome back to my leisurely cruise down the canal. Now, not only am I further towards the picturesque village of Lymm, I found myself a new boat and a new guide. Hello, Nigel.
Hiya.
How long have you been acquainted with these waters then?
My family have been working around here since 1992 when we took over a small chandlery in Stockton Heath.
What's a chandlery?
A chandlery is a place that sells bits for boats, basically. We sell everything from the kitchen sink to paint to ropes to fenders. Anything you can see on these boats around here, we sell in the shop.
I've really noticed there's such a community feel on the canal between the boaters.
There is a very big community. Everybody's out to help each other. They're all friends. They don't know each other, but they're all friendly with each other. We also have a big section of clubs as well, and they are very good communities. They are very, they go on rallies together, they have barbecues together. They're all so very friendly and all very good customers of ours.
I love it on these canals. I can see why people love being on narrow boats, but how difficult are they to live on, or is it quite simple?
It all depends on what you're used to. A narrow boat's 57 foot long and 7 foot wide. It's got a double bed, it's got a shower, it's got a toilet. You can't afford to keep things just in case you might need them one day, because there isn't the room to store them, unfortunately.
I'd be knackered then.
Probably,
my
yes.
clothes. Have you ever lived on a boat?
No, I've got too much stuff. I've got too much clutter, so there's no chance I could ever live on a boat. Plus, also, being married, I don't think my wife would enjoy it either.
Well, what is it that really attracts people to living like this, or just using the canal really for weekends away?
It's this.
Yeah.
It's the greenery, it's the sunshine, it's the peace, it's the tranquility. Yeah. We travel at 4 miles an hour on the canal. There's no rushing about, there's none of this motorway. Everybody's lives are so hectic nowadays. The canals are so peaceful. It's about going slow.
How come you became interested in working here?
We originally had a canal boat when I was 10 years old. Then about 20 years ago we were travelling past the shop and we saw it up for sale. My mum decided that she was going to buy it. About 10 years ago I left my current job, my job then. It's about quality of life now for me. That's more important to me than money.
Are you much happier now?
Absolutely, far happier now. Far happier.
How easy are these to drive?
Very easy. We can even teach people who don't know the left from the right, so we'll have you driving in no time at all.
Did you hear that? That's terrible. I'm going to show you now, Nigel.
Right.
Right, I'm going to get my coat off for this. Right, Nigel, what do I need to do?
Right, this is the tiller, and this is what steers the boat. The important thing to remember is it works the opposite way. So if we want to go left, we've got to put the tiller right. If we want to go right, we've got to put the tiller left. Or, if you don't know your left from your right, point it where you don't want to go.
Right.
All right, so get hold of the tiller.
Grab hold of the tiller.
And so we need to move over to the right just a little bit. So if you push the tiller over to the left.
So I need to do it left.
That's
I
it.
want to go in that direction.
And then straighten up again, because we're moving round now. That's it.
Ooh, is
that easy? It's dead easy.
It's easy.
I'll go inside now.
No, stay.
It's a higher boat, so they're usually quite friendly. Higher boats used to be the funny ones.
And now, having passed my first canal driving lesson, it was time to take a break. See, all this steering the boat is thirsty work, isn't it?
It is.
Should we go to the pub?
Absolutely.
Marvellous. And if you fancy finding out about a local brew, then your luck's in, as Steve Shaniaski is investigating another local brewery. Are you a beer or a bitter man?
I'm a bitter man, but unfortunately I'm driving.
Water for you then.
I
Come
know.
on.
Come on.
Now, being a proud Stockportiadite, I've been extensively researching Robinson's drinks for as long as I can remember. Well, since I was 18 anyway. So I was eager to visit this brewery more than most, and to start off my guided tour was head brewer Chris Helen. So you've got quite a lot of antiquated equipment in this building. How long have you been brewing here?
Well, we've been brewing on the site going back to 1838, that's when the company was established. But this particular brew house goes back to about 1920. So most of the plant that you see here is about 88 years old. But it was built to last. As you can see, they're still going strong.
So the building, the premises are quite tall and tower-like. How does that help the brewing process?
The brewing process is set up to take advantage of gravity. And we start the brewing process off at the top of the brewery, which is about 5 floors up. We take all the raw materials to the top, and then we gradually, with the brewing process, move down to the basement. It goes through about sort of 8 different stages.
But what's 600 feet beneath the brewery?
Oh,
600
right.
feet
600 feet under the brewery. We've got the wells. That
Right.
We've got all the water that we use for brewing is well water. And we've got 2 boreholes under the brewery. As you say, the deepest is 600 foot down. And if you think of Blackpool Tower being 600 foot high, you can imagine how deep we're going to get our water.
Crikey. There's also a lot of history in the yeast that you use as well, because you've had that on.
Very much so.
Explain this. I find this fascinating.
It's our longest serving employee. It was introduced back in 1920 and has been fermenting our beers now for the best part of 88 years.
But it's not just the yeast that has been serving this brewery for a long time, as my next interview was with a member of Manchester's brewing royalty, Oliver Robinson. And I asked him why this site and the Unicorn pub was important to his great-great-great-great-great-grandfather.
Well, he was just in the main brewery yard itself. There was a pub there called the Unicorn Inn.
Yeah.
And he was a typical Stockport pub. He started brewing his own beer. Other pubs in the area wanted to buy beer from him.
Right.
And from there it started to grow. He bought a second pub in Marple. And really from there we've grown to where we are now.
And you've won a lot of awards with these beers as well.
We have.
There's a wall over there.
Yeah, there's a wall full of awards, and we had a very proud moment in '98 when we won a gold medal at the Brewing Industry International Awards for at the time, which was our best bitter, which is now called Unicorn.
Right.
But our most famous one by far is Old Tom.
So did you always know you'd follow the family trade?
No, well, I think I've been brought up with it. I'm 6th generation of Robinson's Brewery, and I've got 4 boys myself, and hopefully one day they'll be here as part of the 7th generation. And I suppose it's in my blood.
Yeah.
I used to come in here as a child and on a Saturday and help my father open the post. He used to come in on my holidays and see the beer being made, go to the packaging centre and see the guys on the forklift trucks, and I found it fascinating. It's unusual for someone to be able to say that they can wake up on a Monday morning and they enjoy coming to work.
So Robinson's Brewery is absolutely steeped in history, 170 years, but what's next?
Well, that's a very good question. You can never stand still. You've got to constantly evolve. We've brought out a number of smooth beers over the last 4 or 5 years, but also more of a push on beer and food, and it's creating a bit more excitement and a bit more theatre with beer.
Well, thanks very much for chatting to me, Oliver. It's been a delight to chat to you.
No, cheers.
Cheers.
Yeah, healthy drinking.
Steve Shaniaski there, reporting on a very tough assignment, as is mine today. Steve will be back broadening his beer horizons next week as he samples some imported continental beers. But now it's over to local author Heather Miles, who, through her research for the book Salford Past, knows more than most about how life has changed in Salford over the years.
Salford's history really is It is incredibly vibrant. In the last 100 years alone, we've seen so many changes in Salford's general makeup as a city, and it's kind of risen to the challenge. From its roots as a rural town, it kind of developed into this industrial core for Manchester itself. Living in Salford changed radically from the 1900s, where you had these relatively new houses, still tiny, but well maintained, that families really did look after. But by the 1920s, you'd started to have this economic depression in the country. The decline in the economic kind of stability of the area meant that it wasn't long before the housing and the streets saw a similar decline. Salford street life basically was compact. That's probably the nicest way of putting it. The workers were provided with homes, and as many as they could fit in the smallest area possible. So really you could have like 2 or 3 generations of family living in the same 2 up, 2 down, 6 children all sharing the same bed kind of thing, top to tail. I heard stories of my father growing up in Salford in the 50s, and he used to say even in the 1950s that he was one of the rich kids because he had a pair of shoes. You have all the various street parties that occurred during the 1930s, 40s, 50s, 60s and 70s. I mean, basically any excuse to have a party, and people would absolutely make certain they were out there on the streets celebrating it with their neighbours. This glorious day of just big trestle tables being brought out into the middle of the street, and the mums all sharing all the various tablecloths to dress these tables, get all the bunting out from house to house. And all this food just being laid right down the centre of these tables, with children sat on either side on whatever benches or chairs they'd bring out of their own homes, and just kind of like enjoy the party together. By the time you got to the 1960s, people were still living next door to bomb sites from the Second World War. Nothing had really changed, and the local government again were continuing to look at the situation, and it had been decided that the slums that they had become, these homes and communities, had to be cleared. Life in Salford today is vastly different. It's vibrant, it's a growing city. People are proud of where they come from. They're proud of the fact that the city that they've come from has had such a rich cultural and diverse background. And I think it continues to be a kind of a gateway into the northwest.
Well, that's all from this week's Isle of Manchester. I hope you've enjoyed our leisurely cruise down the Bridgewater Canal, and thank you very much, Nigel, for guiding us down.
No problem.
I will be back in Manchester city centre next week to find out more about a musical attraction that has a link to this stretch of water, the Bridgewater Hall. So I'll see you then. You can't beat an egg custard.
Well, don't know.
Down in one?
You can try.
Cheers.
By bus, by train, or Metrolink. GMPTE, proud sponsors of Isle of Manchester, connecting people with places throughout Greater Manchester.